What's up, my people?
Hey.
Welcome to the Restoring the Breach podcast. I'm your host, Greg.
And I'm Cachet.
Where we specialize in unlocking the leader inside of you. Ooh, it's been a long time.
It has been.
Definitely been on hiatus. But we're excited because we're launching a new mini-series called Let's Talk with the Colemans.
Mm-hmm. Let's Talk with the Colemans is exciting to us because this one is more personal. Mm-hmm. It is unscripted. And we go deeper in conversation.
Indeed.
Yeah. Do you feel like we went deeper than we have ever
Absolutely.
Gone before?
About everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Even just everyday things.
Yeah.
So sit back.
Relax and enjoy this episode. Well, you could have put on shorts.
I'm trying to be comfy. Trying to be relaxed here.
Well, I am over here fixing my avatar. She's a little slimmer now. It's summertime, and I don't like their shoe.
She a little on the Caucasian side, though.
No, she's not. She's about your skin tone. Look at her, Greg. What?
She's about my
skin is. She is. I don't like their shoe selection, though.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
I feel like people are living vicariously through avatars.
No. This is just me trying to represent myself in a cartoon type of way.
Okay. Well, why don't she look like you?
Because this is the options that you get, okay?
Okay. All right.
I can't take this because then they get the regular white tennis shoes, but I don't feel like that's... I don't want that.
You don't like tennis shoes anyway.
I don't. What about them flip-flops?
Oh, they from Old Navy?
Anyway.
They on sale?
No, you know that don't matter. If I want them, I want them. But then they just, look at these watch. That's the only type they got. They ain't got a heel in sight.
Yeah, and I'm seeing them ones that go between your toes. You know how I feel personally about the ones for me to go between your toes.
This is not your avatar.
You're right.
This is my avatar.
You're
I was changing my hair.
I prefer,
what
it's
you
just
prefer?
Me. I like to send people a picture of myself if it would require that.
Nobody asked you. Don't you have an avatar?
But I use avatar a lot on Facebook in the comments.
I know you do. This is what I'm saying.
So I'm being hypocritical.
You are. That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. I wanted her to look. I was like, I don't got that bob right now.
No, you don't.
See. I don't. See? Yeah.
Her eyebrows is done too.
I know. Are you trying to say mines aren't?
No, I'm not.
Boy, I'm having a problem here. Don't. Let's see. Today was a type of day. Let me think. It was good though.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. But by the end of the day, you just be tired. That's all.
With all these kids around here, that's just what it is.
I was feeling tight. I was hearing you getting everybody ready for bed, like yelling, and like people was crying, and I was just like, I'm gonna keep folding this laundry. And
you left me hanging. Okay.
I was done. You see, I be done.
No,
There'd be a certain time where I be done.
And most days you deal with them a lot longer than I do, so I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I was just, the thing is, I feel like you do have, I think you might have more patience than me, or there's, this shift of, some days I have more patience. Like, one day you was about to go in on Greg, and I was like, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, don't, honey, don't. You like, boy. And I was like, don't do that. I was in the room. I don't know if you heard me, but I did say it.
Probably didn't.
You didn't. But you didn't, though. But you were done in that moment. There's moments in parenting where you be done. Like, we all be. Like, as the parent, it should be a segment called When You Be Done.
Grammatically incorrect and everything.
It needs to be exactly the way that it is.
Yeah.
Like, you be done.
Yeah.
And parents will understand what I'm saying.
Well, you just took the words that I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
for folks who are walking in similar shoes,
yeah,
you can make statements that they can connect with.
man, I put a post on Facebook a couple seconds, like what, 15 minutes ago.
And it doesn't require explanation.
No, everybody knows.
Yeah, it reminds me of like nonverbal communication. We just look at somebody and just.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's stressful, like if your kids is cutting up in the store and they got kids too, and y'all just look at each other like.
Yeah. Or like me and you at the dinner table that one night.
Which one night? Like all the time?
Where I just looked at you.
Yeah.
I did communicate slightly though. I said it's me and you.
Yeah. No, you look at me like you look like you,
7 people in this house.
You know what you look like? You look like you was on the episode of Survivor. You had like your fork, your eyes was slightly wild.
Mm-hmm.
And you was like, "It's me and you, okay?
If we gotta eat everybody here,
it's me and you.
We're gonna be cannibals."
You looked crazy. But I understood. It was one of them times they were loud, they were rowdy, and it was one of them you be done moments. The thing with parenting is you can have a you be done,
mm-hmm.
but you don't be done.
Yeah.
But you be done for the moment.
Yeah.
And then you be liking them again.
Yeah.
But then you be done again in a little bit. And then there'll be times where you be done.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like I be done. Okay? Like I be like, go to bed. Don't say goodnight. I don't even bad night. I don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, the mommy ain't say goodnight. Say it from your bed. Because if you get back out, that's what I one time goes to go hug your mom. No, don't hug me.
Yeah.
Hug me at 2:30 before I was done.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to put you to bed and it's taking forever.
Mm-hmm.
And now y'all want to get back out the bed. Then we got to get you back in the bed, which is another 15 minutes, and I be done. And you be all thinking with the sentimental stuff, and I don't be having that to do.
Well, you know, and I mean, this makes me think about. You remember the daily schedule I made for stay-at-home moms. I used you as the template because I don't think people really consider how much effort goes into something like bedtime.
Yeah. Oh God.
There's a lot of energy that's put into that. Like when you don't have kids, you have the liberty to go in the fridge, pull out what you want, sit down, turn on what you want on TV for a second, you know, relax.
A second?
You know.
You get here from work. I remember I would plan out, when I moved out and had my own space, like the first time, I would plan out my whole dinner I was making. Mm-hmm. And I would make it for myself in there, got my music on and stuff. Take it, watch it in front of the TV, my favorite movie.
Undercover Brother?
Yes.
On VHS?
On VHS. That's how y'all know how long it been. And it was such a great time in life.
No, for real.
Like,
for real.
Remember when we used to like make a whole DiGiorno when we first got
That's
married?
all we needed though.
And we put it in front of the
Yeah, we used to.
We would
what
watch
you want, DiGiorno
First
tonight?
48.
Yep.
And we just watched First 48. This is when we was newlyweds, and we would just eat. Oh, that was such a great time in life.
Yeah.
Dag, I feel like, remember, you know the gift that was like, it was 84 years ago. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I be done some. A lot of it, like, you know, people who don't have kids can't fully grasp like stuff like that. Yeah. Things that are really small. It's just like, oh, you put them in the bed, and you know, you're done. That's it. I'll just put them in the bed at 7:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know.
Because even if you've babysat folks, to conceptualize the invasion of your life, like that's the
like
reality.
All the time.
Because it's one thing, you're able to come into, you're able to have some mental prep when you're watching somebody's kids. You know what, at least somewhat, the environment you're walking in.
They created the schedule. They gave it to you.
Well, to have a life change, like having kids around.
Yeah.
Where now
all the time.
Your life is disrupted. Like
at all times.
Yeah.
It's never okay.
Yeah.
It's always an invasion at all times. And then you get thugs like Judah who don't care.
Yeah. And
he like busts in the door even when you're in the best sleep ever.
Yeah, he's probably the
most maverickest child. Yeah, I'm gonna have like all kind of words.
A 3-year-old savage.
Yeah, he's a different breed for real.
Beautiful, but a savage at the same time.
Yeah, it's one of them things. I don't know what to call it. I'm still perplexed. I still be looking at him like we had another baby. He's 3. And I still be like, man, that's crazy. Like, it's like they be here. Like, when you're, when you're pregnant and they come, like, it takes time for your brain to catch up with the fact that they're here, like, for real. Because you can kind of detach from the fact that they came from your body. For real.
Well, I can't, because, well, it did come from my body, but...
In the best way ever.
Don't matter. We're going to get into this?
No, let's not.
We're going to get into this?
They came from your body in the best way
we
ever.
come out of Father's Day month of June, and now we in July, and now we're just going to throw fathers away again. This is why I advocate for all my fellas.
Man, I'm not throwing you away. But no, I think it's weird because you can become a little detached from it, and then you're like, me and my friend was talking about it on Facebook, and then you're like looking at these kids like, when is their mother like, you being the parent is crazy. Like, for me, 38, been a mother for 12 years. Like, I'm the mom.
Yeah.
Like, I got to make this. Like, there have been times where I have didn't know what decision to make or what to do. And there ain't nobody. And for me, I don't have, like, my mom to be like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I have to, like, there's no one around me I really talk to in that way to where, and it's just purely this independence just because of how I grew up. And so there isn't any space for me to be like, you're the mom. Yeah. Like, mom, or call my mom and say, like, what in the world? Like, I don't know what decision to make, or what do you think? I've never had a situation of, like, a pushy, stuff that people, like, despise and love in some ways. Their mom be bothering them, getting on their nerves, but they're there. Yeah. To, like, even if they're fussing or something, like, they're there. And so I don't have that. And so it's really surreal at times where I am the one having to do it. Like, I know that God gave me, he is teaching me because I really don't have that around me. Yeah. And so it's one of them things that it's even weirder that it's like, how are you a mother like this? When you ain't really have that. And it's not like no shots at my mom. It's just she was sick. So she...
Well, the what you have labeled and defined you in her relationship, she was sister mom.
Yeah, she was
because of her disability.
Yeah, and so because of that, that's what she knew. Like, she got sick when I was little. So when she was maybe 19, 20, 21 at the latest.
For me, you've always been an example of, in many ways, like God being a parent figure.
Yeah. I would say, even when you don't know that, that's what he's being to you. Because I haven't always recognized until it was over, I don't know how I know how to do this.
Yeah, the instinctive behavior that you never know was inside of you.
It wasn't.
Mom turns on.
Yeah, and the things that I want to do with my children or what I think about, while also understanding that I also know nothing. That's the thing that I think is kind of cool and weird about the age that I am now. Like, I wouldn't go back because, we were talking with a friend earlier today, and in your 20s, it's like you're really figuring things out. Like, you don't know nothing. Yeah. Even though you think you do. Until then you get in. I feel like these later 30s have been more golden. Yeah. For lots of different reasons. And so I wouldn't go back, even though it's like, oh Lord, me in 40 is about to like the wisdom that I have now and the space that I'm in, I wouldn't go back at all, because I just feel like I didn't really know anything. But you expect yourself to know. You think that you're going to know stuff. But this is like a good space. And I can look back. And I look back over things that I have, like, done or learned, and it's like, where in the world?
Isn't it what we've been talking about? What's the quote we've been using so much?
Which one?
So very often lately. Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
You can never picture, or you can never forecast where you're going to be in life. You can't forecast the wisdom that you're going to gain along the way.
Yeah.
You only have a perception of where you are and where you want to go. Yeah. And so oftentimes we're like, I want to be in this place. I want to be this productive in life at this age.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're going to gather along the way.
A lot of people don't even know what they want to do. Like, you think you should, but you don't.
Yep.
You're still discovering so much.
Even with great vision. You can have a tremendous vision for your life. But there are certain things that you just can't prepare for. I think parenthood is the perfect example of that. You can have all the money in the world.
Yep.
Map out the plan. I want to have 2 kids, a dog, white picket fence, all of that. All the resources. Maybe I could have a nanny, whatever.
Oh, that sounds like Jesus.
Yeah, but even with that, say your child contracts some type of degenerate, or they develop some degenerative disease,
born
or
with it.
Just something random.
That you didn't know.
Just using a hypothetical.
Yeah.
You can't prepare for that. There's nothing that, even the psychological impact, there's nothing that can prepare you for that until it happens.
It don't even have to be that deep. It is like, I remember bringing Gregory home from the hospital. And I had experience with babies and babysitting and stuff. And I remember putting them in the pack and play, like, what do I do with him? Mm-hmm. I didn't, as the parent, I establish routine. I establish, and there's a lot that I recognize that I really didn't know. Mm-hmm. And now we're in an age that there's a lot more information and social media and all this stuff. You could YouTube stuff and Google stuff. When we had Greg, and I feel old, but it's true, all of this stuff is still fairly new.
Yeah.
When we had Greg, everybody didn't really have Wi-Fi like that.
Yeah.
So you still going to the library to do applications for jobs and stuff.
Yeah, we didn't have no Wi-Fi.
No, we didn't have anything like that. And so
it was out, we just weren't paying for it.
Well, no, even with that, it was out, but it wasn't like it was a everybody got to have it thing. It was still fairly new. There still was dial-up, and it wasn't that. Now you're in a space in life where you gotta have it for everything, even down to your phones and your TV and all that. Back then it wasn't like that, and so you couldn't Google or YouTube stuff to be like, what do I do with my baby? And I remember bringing him home, and you think you're gonna know, but man, you don't know nothing. And you realize that you are the one that establishes the routines and the stuff. And I think it can be more difficult. It can be even more difficult if you don't have a village or anybody to say anything. And I feel like I didn't really have that. Not enough to be I know I can leave. I just didn't think to do it. I probably could have called my aunts, but I just didn't think to do anything like that. So my village was distant village, and we were super heavily involved in church and stuff, and that was our village, and that was what we did. And it wasn't, I didn't think to go let me call deaconess so and so. And it could just because of how I grew up, I don't know. But because there were people that were still alive that I could have called, but I just didn't think to do it.
I get that. I don't know. Some people can contribute it to a personality thing. Others can contribute it to the type of culture that you've grown up in. But it's the same way for me. As a man, we've gone through some things in life, whether it's financial or whatever, whether it's,
Vision was
that,
been the biggest.
even if it was relational things. Our first few years of marriage were tough. Just in terms of communicating and being on the same page. We did have some rough times.
We did. But, I still, when I look back, I'm like,
that ain't the point. The thing is that there was growth. There was some growing years coming in early, and it was never a thought to me to say, who can I call?
Yeah.
So that's why I say all that to say I can relate to that. It was really like
that's the oldest child thing too.
It could
you
be.
often hear that we're both the oldest, even though I'm the oldest in a different way. Mm-hmm. It's still like the firstborn. Mm-hmm. There's like this.
There's a different level of independence. You're not dependent on people, but it also, like, I think just culturally, you've grown up in a household with a lot of women, especially older women. So you were definitely kind of thrust into environments where you took on some mature thinking young. Mm-hmm. I am the oldest. Yeah. And I just always kind of been like this independent thinker. Off in my own world sometimes mentally. Yeah.
And it's like not... I think that people don't understand this if they're not the oldest child or they're not like the firstborn in a space like that. You don't, because we see Gregory's like that, or he's like that. Mm-hmm. And it's not because we made him be like independent and responsible and stuff like that. It's like this instinctive thing that's like, it's kind of crazy to watch. Mm-hmm. There's like more of a maturity, more of a responsibility type of thing that he has, that no one made him be like. Because for real, when we had Micah, he was only 2 years old, 18 months old. Yeah. So it wasn't like it was like this great big gap where he's like, oh, I got to take care of the baby. Like, no, it wasn't like that. They were both really babies together. But it just shows that there's something, and maybe it's a God design with the oldest child that is like, they're more like, independent in a way or something like that. But I just remember when I think back, like how much I like didn't know anything, even with all the advice, everything people would say, all the stuff, I just didn't know anything when I had him. And I was like, I know nothing. So, going back to the whole, this age I'm in now, I recognize that I know some things and I also know nothing. Mm-hmm. It's a weird space, but it's kind of comfortable and freeing in a way to be like, there are some things that I know. I'm not 22 I do know some things. And then there's other stuff where it's like, man, I don't know nothing. I know all kind of stuff and
it
nothing
makes sense.
at all.
I've seen that quote and heard it stated on a handful of occasions, because it's when you look at how much life could possibly be ahead of you that you have no answers for right now. Yeah, it's like there ain't no way. Even up until this point, if you're trying to gauge how much I know, to create success or secure success in the future, man, I'm still learning along the way.
Man, some things God don't even like allow to be brought out until later, and you don't even know. Mm-hmm. Like, there's some stuff that's just so simple that it's like, I wouldn't even have knew.
Like what?
Like how to do it. Like what? I have skills that I think about. Like what makes me, how did I learn how to braid my daughter's hair? Mm-hmm. I think about that.
Like nobody ever sat you down and showed you how to braid hair. Nobody taught me how to braid
at all. At all. Yeah. When I got old enough, no, I wouldn't even say, I started going to the shop young, and they took me to the shop every 2 weeks. Until my grandma died. Mm-hmm. So until I was 14, I was always so other people was doing my hair. I didn't really do my hair for real. I had like baby dolls, but there was no one going 1, 2, 1, 2 like that. That didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And when Julie came, I had to learn. Like I knew how to do bollies and barrettes. But I had to learn, she was bald. I had to learn, like, how to do a baby's hair from scratch. You don't think about that. You just, oh, I'm going to have a daughter, and da-da-da-da. And then when they come and they ain't got no hair, and you got to figure out, like, things to put on their hair, and how to nurture their hair, and how to take care of it, what grade of hair they got, are these barrettes good, or these not, do you grease it, do you moisturize it, do you deep condition it, what if they rip out a whole ponytail, now what do I do? Like, there's so much that it's like, you don't even think about before you have them, because you can't fathom it. You're just like, oh, they have a baby. But like, what comes with it is crazy. And now we're getting to this like preteen stage, and that's new. And just trying to figure out how to help them because they're little humans, and help them to be the best that they can be. I really found comfort in when I read that when I read that scripture, and God showed it to me differently, where Solomon was like, God, he prayed when God said, what do you want? And he said, wisdom to lead your people. And God showed it to me different, like, Lord, I need wisdom to lead your people. Mm-hmm. My children are your people. Mm-hmm. Because that's another thing.
That was
stuff
real.
happened. You go to church for a majority of your life. Mm-hmm. When you think about God's people, you think about the outside.
Yep.
You don't think about like your children or God's people. You just don't even put it together. At least me, I didn't put it together.
Yeah.
It was just like when we first got married, and we got a prophecy about you being able to like what you're gonna do with your family, and I didn't put together that I was your family. Mm-hmm. It's like that. So when God showed me that, it helped me to like pray differently. I had to pray like, Lord, give me wisdom to lead your people, because my children are your people. Mm-hmm. And so we tend to separate that when it comes to when in ministry, we'll separate that from like God's people is the people on the streets who need him, or inside the church building. And sometimes because of that, for people who are in leadership roles and stuff like that, their children can get overlooked.
Yeah, they become secondary.
Because you don't look at your kids like they're God's people, mm-hmm. but they are. Mm-hmm. God blessed you thinking or with the idea in mind that you have something in you that you can give them from a baby on up.
Yeah.
Because that's only to a certain place too, where they're that close.
I'd venture to say there are some people that man, this is taking my mind to a lot of different places. Sometimes you just kind of have this mindset that because you live with your kids, mm-hmm. that they automatically get what's necessary for them.
Nope.
When it's like, if I am providing leadership and love and mm-hmm. guidance and mentorship to people who are strangers, why wouldn't my children actually need leadership and love and guidance and mentorship like other people? Just because they live with you, you don't automatically and innately take on all the characteristics of your parents. You don't automatically, because you're inserted in that environment and they're able to watch you mm-hmm. from a front row seat, that they just get it.
Yeah,
it ain't that, and it's not the same way.
Sometimes I can even say that they may distance themselves from it.
They get to watch everybody else get those things that they desire and need.
Yeah. And maybe they need something different than that.
Yep.
Just because I have this skill, like God gave us a family of all musicians, and but what if we were musical and had kids that were not? Mm-hmm. I can't force something on you. That's why we need God's wisdom for how to lead his people mm-hmm. that he gave us. Because that's why they're our first ministry. Mm-hmm. That's why we're their first pastors, per se.
Yeah.
We're the first Jesus that they see. And a lot of times we miss it because we're Jesus in everybody else.
Yeah.
And we ain't Jesus in our kids.
Yeah.
Except for like, you need to learn this scripture and blah, blah. Because sometimes you can get real, depending on your level in leadership and what you're doing, you may be hard on your kids in that way, but not in the way of how Jesus led the disciples. Mm-hmm. Like with love and kindness and gentleness and stuff like that. You're the pastor's child. You're a minister of music, and you need to be like this and that. And we're not giving it to them in love for them to even be able to receive in a way that they need to. Because mm-hmm. That's something that you learn when you have multiple kids. They all need stuff differently. And that's for me, that's one of the most difficult things. Mm-hmm. It started with discipline, because I was so rough in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It took a bunch of kids for me to
learn how to be gentle, bring it down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And even with that, it's still a daily walking process of it.
Well, it really shows how intentional God is in what he does. Mm-hmm. Like, you go to the word mm-hmm. and he's talking to the disciples, and they're asking him, trying to quiz him Father who's the greatest among us, and he tells us to come to him as a child. Yeah. And so if you overlook that, there's such a big lesson in that, because as parents, our children are like the first clean slate we have to create this mosaic masterpiece. Yeah. And then I know from a professional standpoint how many times the lessons I've learned as a parent and in teaching them and helping develop them, I've used with grown-ups in the professional world. Yeah. And so that's intentional. Like, so if we go back to the original point that you made about our kids being our first ministry, or our home being our first ministry, our home. You have a place that you are around more than any other place. Yeah. And if you overlook it, it's like this is your training ground. Yeah. When you join the military, you have a home base. That you develop all those skills before you go to war. Yeah. Before you get in a battle with any type of opposition, or as the young folks like to say now, any ops. Yeah. You train on your home front. And so, old man. But it's the same thing. Like, we have our kids are our parenting ground. Our marriage is a place where we're able to develop our communication and how we talk. Yeah. And how we learn how to pay attention to what people's love languages are and how they receive things.
How to live with another human being.
Yeah, because then now they're a mirror to hold up to you to show you yourself. Yeah. So, but all of those skill sets can be developed at home. Yeah. So now we look at this whole thing, how you can be a leader. Yeah. In church, in the professional space, wherever, nonprofit, it don't matter. And you overlook, like, you were able to test this and develop it and grow at home.
This is why I'm learning just in life how much I'm so thankful that God allowed the Holy Spirit to come, because we need the Spirit of God to lead us. Like, there are times when I'm like yelling or fussing or disciplining one of our kids or something, and I will feel the Holy Spirit like he'll point out something I said that was like, that was too much. Even if he keeps pointing it out like this, this, like trying to help me to get it, trying to help me to get it, because it's really, I need to get it because I have to, because it needs to be corrected, so that they don't grow up and need therapy from me. And that is such a challenging thing, especially when you have so many humans in your house who all need different things. Sometimes I'm like, God, I don't even, like, I know we did the making, of course, we planned them, but also there was prayer there, especially the last like 2 times, like, should we do this again? For me, like, are you saying we need it, or what do you say, Lord? Do we have another one, or is this good to stop here? And I believe that God showed that they were meant to be here. And so it's like, you trust me with 5 different personalities. You trust me to, in some ways, make little disciples, so to speak. Yeah. You trust me to help these little human beings become decent people in the world, and develop them to where I'm supposed to, in this close proximity for however many years. And then even when they're gone, there's a distant like thing I'm supposed to have. You trust me to do this 5 times. And to see myself messing up, at least to myself, like over and over and over again, really shows me the love of God and how he parents us, but also how much we need him.
Know how dependent we are.
We are extreme. If we really look at how much we need, we cannot breathe without God. But we get up and we can feel like and think like, but someone, and I would say this to the kids in the morning whenever we're praying, because I want them to understand, like, don't take it for granted. Someone thought they was waking up today. Someone thought that someone had plans for today and they didn't make it. And so we don't recognize the level of dependence we have on God until it's taken away.
Yeah.
And so what I don't want is for it to have to be.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a terminal thing to know God's a healer.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, the word I hearing that is appreciation.
Yeah.
Why? You don't have to face.
I don't want to have to like
to appreciate it.
To be like, ooh, snap. Mm-hmm. I could, God, you know.
The dog over there.
Mia be having.
Man, tap her, man. She over
having nightmares or something.
Nightmares in her sleep.
Nobody ain't asked you. Come on. She, you know, but she be all close. But
another one. That's kid number 6.
But you know, you don't. We recognize the great need that we have for the Lord. Mm-hmm. In our life, and it's when you really recognize that, it's something to like realizing I really don't have any control of anything. Mm-hmm. I can grind to death. Mm-hmm. I can do all this stuff, but in the end, I don't have control. When I think about, you know, the people in the submarine that went, you know, they all that money that they paid, all that stuff and people were like, that was stupid and blah blah blah. They felt like they can do it, and then at some point under that water, they realize
we have no control.
We don't have any control, and there's nothing we can do, and that is sad when you really think about it in that instance. You know, I think about my mom and her illness and how much she desired healing. And to get an illness that is slow and long and isn't like cancer, like I'm going to kill you. Like, you know, there's an expectation that you can possibly die from. With MS, it wasn't quite like that. It's just a slow, degenerative disease. And so you don't know how long or how fast or how slow, you know, and how she did not have any control of that. Is like, we don't have control, you know, and it's just, I want to be able to understand that now so that I can get it, so that I can share it. And then, because God is a good father, he's saying, put the weight on me. Like, realize I don't got no control.
Yeah.
And then put the weight on me for the things that you need. And you said it earlier, you know, you get tired of, like, at times being so dependent. And I think that there's a space of independence with God, but then there's a space where it's like, it's like independently and dependent still.
Yeah. Like
we recognize and we can't do anything without him. Is one of them things that can be bittersweet when you want to be like, I'm ready to just, you know, I'm grown. I want to put on my pants and like you do, you know, all that stuff we be saying. But to like really understand how much, like, what it's his good pleasure. He wants to be father to us. He wants to take care of us. It's just, it's easy and hard. Because the world around you says certain things. That's why I get why the Bible says, when it's talking about renewing your mind, by changing the way you think.
Yeah. In
one translation, and then the peace of God. You know, like, it's like God has to help us to change the way we think, and being conformed to the world, but not being conformed to the world is us learning. Like, the world is saying all this stuff, and it's not all wrong, but it could be misguided. And so God has to help us for our minds to be transformed, because that stuff is all around us. You know, the world's like, the only way you're going to get this is if you grind. If you grind, if you don't rest, if you don't sleep, you don't get no sleep, you don't do this. And God's like, one of my number one things I need from you, or that I'm trying to make sure that you have, is rest.
Well, this is the first thing that popped in my mind is, I think that the identifiable trait, or what is the struggle between the world, because that's a church term.
Yeah.
Like it's a term we understand as believers, but when we
Yeah.
talk about not doing what the world does, then the first question I ask is, well, what is it the world does?
What is the world?
I think it's important to identify, like, what is a part of God's citizenship, what's a part of his kingdom versus what is being done that violates his kingdom principles. And that's where you can't, it's like every situation you kind of have to ask that question, like what is, okay, if we're talking about in marriage, what are we doing that God approves of and that he doesn't?
Yeah.
As a parent, what am I doing that God approves of and he doesn't? If you don't invite him into that conversation, then you will find yourself doing things that are not productive.
Yeah. Like, it's like going in a circle.
Yeah, you'll be destroying them. Like, just to give a practical example of that, if I'm supposed to love my wife like Christ loves the church, that's what the Bible tells us. Which is extreme. I am to love you like Christ loves the church. Now, if I don't have that biblical principle in place, then I'm going to do what the world paints a picture of what a husband is.
What they say love is.
Yeah. So I'll love you the way that the world depicts, or what I'm displayed from the people that are around me,
or TV,
of what love is,
or whatever.
All of what society and media, but then God says now I have a picture of what his principle is. So what did Jesus do for his bride, for the church? He laid his life down.
Yeah.
He sacrificed. He devoted his life and his ministry on showing how relentlessly
Jesus just did good.
Yeah.
He didn't really say, today I'm going to love my church. Mm-hmm. He didn't do that. His life was loving. And that makes me think about what I was thinking about earlier. I was thinking about love and what I once viewed it as and what I view it as now. But before I go into that, I was thinking something. Hold on.
You done took my point. But where are you going?
No.
Go ahead.
Sometimes, all the time, so we're in this space in freedom in God that's different than it was before, for this new space we're in, which I believe is completely intentional by God because of what we're learning. And what I'm seeing in our relationship with God, individually as well as collaboratively, is that the transformation, don't be conformed to the world, isn't necessarily always sin.
Mm-hmm. No.
This is where it talks about working out your own salvation. Mm-hmm. And I know that people often use that to do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that God made each and every one of us custom. And because he made us custom, there are things that I need that you don't from him in a certain way.
Yeah.
For me to carry out the purpose of God in my life. Mm-hmm. And there are things that you need. So a practical example would be my story that I always share, and this is the churchy version of it, but the lady who God had praying, waking up at 4 a.m., getting the sweet nectar of the Lord because of the purpose in her life.
Yeah, she got into her prayer time and Bible time at 4:30 a.m.
But for the other person, Joyce Myers had told a similar story. If we want to use two women who God used to teach the word, and she tried to do 4-hour prayer, and she failed miserably.
Yeah, 30 minutes in.
She fell asleep.
Yep.
She said, I prayed about everything I thought of. I slept. I did all this stuff. But she made this announcement because we'll look at what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
And we can look at what someone else is doing as a template to say, God, what do you have for me to do for my life and the purpose you have for me, or where I am in my life, or what I need, or what things I'm going through. But God, as he wants us to walk with him custom.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you can sin and I can't sin, and not that. But there are things that we'll look at and be like, well, I don't got to do that. Or, well, they're just doing too much. Or they'll look at you like you're doing too much. Or you'll look at them like, I ain't doing enough.
Yeah.
I couldn't be, she said 4 hours, she prays 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
I should, if I'm going to teach God's word, then I should pray for 4 hours a day. And God, like, I ain't even asked you to do that.
Yeah, we missed the opportunity to teach a principle to people. When the practical principle and all of that ain't got nothing to do with the amount of time spent.
Yep.
The principle for both of those two scenarios is I go to God.
Obedience.
I go to God to see what the customized process is for me in this lane.
Yeah.
And then that lane could be, okay, what's my lane for seeking God in prayer and then devoting my time for devotion and Bible study with him, getting in my word. What does that look like for me? That's the principle that I'm trying to teach to people. That's the principle that I should be delivering to folks. Not that I go to God for 4 hours at 4:30 a.m.
So you should too.
I should be,
because that's the way that it's supposed to be.
The principle
because
is
that's what we do.
I went to God because I needed to be able to go before him and get into some intimate time with him, and I went to him, and he showed me how it fits me. I encourage you to go about doing the same
practically.
way.
What about simple? Like, that's extra deep in Jesus. What about, do I go to college?
Mm-hmm.
How do I date? How am I supposed to date?
Yep.
What type of job am I supposed to have?
Yeah.
Where am I supposed to live?
Yeah.
What kind of car am I supposed to have?
Mm-hmm.
We don't always think of that stuff. Like, God, if God cares about every detail, we have experienced God caring about details that we think don't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I say it all the time. Like, after we had Judah, me really wanting a dog, and I didn't care for animals all like that. Like, I liked my cat I had a while, but I didn't care for animals in that way. I wasn't like, oh, she grew up an animal lover and all this stuff. But there was something going on in me that I like wanted a dog so bad. You remember? And then I had a dream. I had a white dog. I was looking at brown dogs, actually. I was looking at a whole different breed. But always loved the type of dog my cousin had when we were kids. I loved Chow Chow, even though he was over there. I was like, oh, cute. And God gave me a dream that I had a white dog. And I woke up like, dog named dog Pixie in the dream or whatever. And so the details, even up to us getting there, and I had extra money in my wallet, which I never have, and it ended up being the extra money that we didn't know that we needed, and it was the exact money, exact change, and she was exactly what I dreamed about, showed how God cared about details of something that we ain't necessarily need or have to have.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about that, I think about the details of God caring about you as a person and what you need, because I feel like I needed, like looking back, I feel like there was something I needed at the time
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know why it was such a great and deep desire. And God brought an animal to bring some kind of comfort or something, whatever it was that I needed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that, going back to God, customizing that might work for me, but for somebody else it may be something completely different. Mm-hmm. But somebody can listen to that story, and if I say it wrong, I can become, and it can sound ridiculous, but I'd be like, and that's why y'all have to get a dog, because God.
Yeah.
And it sounds dumb.
That's a good example.
But it's true.
Yeah.
We'll just use it in stuff that's more universal, like prayer and church and what you need to be in the church and what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
But it can be as small
Mm-hmm.
as like me then adopting a belief that God gives dogs to heal your wounds.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to get a dog. And then the church goes and preaches it and makes it a principle
Mm-hmm.
Of what should be, like it's Bible, and it's not. That's what God gave because you needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do to people, or they, because I don't want to even include my, that's what the church can do to people.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a whole congregation believing that God gives dogs to humans to heal them.
When the principle is God just wants to show that he's closer than any brother or friend.
And he needed, and the dog was to help heal you.
That was just the avenue taken. What
that
he was trying
what
to convey
he chose
is that,
for you.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that everybody needs to have a dog.
Yeah, that's good.
But that, and I use that as a far left example, so that you can see how silly it is, the things that we can do trying to speak for God.
Man.
You know? And we have so many stories of God using different things that we needed or didn't need or whatever like that, that we can easily take and say, you need to have this to serve God, that we know is not true. And I think that we have, because we've experienced things like that, we have such a great, what's the word? Like this deep desire to help people to like know God for themselves, so that they understand the purpose that's on for them, like why they're here.
Yeah.
And not what Cachet said.
Yeah.
And not what modeling after Greg is like.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can look at stuff that we do and say, oh, those are good practices. But you have to, and I say this to wives all the time, you have to learn how to translate it for the language of your marriage. Because every marriage should have its own language. And if you don't do that, you will be speaking Japanese and your language is supposed to be, you know, Australian or whatever, in Italian. Your language is supposed to be Italian in your marriage, but you over here speaking Japanese, and you wonder why there's clashing. Because y'all are not speaking the language that was meant for your marriage. You're looking at somebody else. And here's the other thing. Looking at someone else's marriage, you don't know what's going on in there. You're speaking a language without understanding of what the origin is and what's going on over there. You trying to be like them and you don't even know. Like, I'm not even going through that. Why am I talking like a slave, but I'm actually free? Like, you don't even know. And that's why we got to be careful with comparison and how we live and looking at people. And you can say, man, they're a great couple, awesome example. Now you need to figure out what works for you in your marriage. You'll be putting pressure on your spouse that don't need to be, trying to make them somebody that they don't need to be, or trying to make yourself somebody you don't need to be. And you don't have to do that, you know? So I was thinking about love earlier, and I was like, it's different than what you think when your first thoughts about love, when you're like growing up and watching all, especially girls, watching the love stuff, thinking how you should be. It's totally different, and I don't think that you really know it until you've been in something for a while. You know, love is actually, in marriage, to me, can actually be scary and intimidating, especially when you've come from a background where you thought you knew love, but you didn't really see it. It could be scary because it requires letting your guard. If you want to get to those deep parts of love, it requires letting your guard down in a way that can be very uncomfortable.
It's really a fear of the unknown.
But also, well, you said
you don't know.
You always say it. There's a safety net part.
Yep.
You are letting yourself. If we all want to be protected in some way.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to be like, oh, well, just let yourself go. But it's really not.
Well, the thing is, the reason I say fear of the unknown is you don't have, I think about a child. A child doesn't have apprehensions of loving and expressing themselves until something makes them afraid to express it. Like a baby coming and giving you hugs or asking you for something. I'll use myself as an example. You know, I had a complex, and in some ways, still as an adult, a complex of asking certain things out of fear of getting a no. Now, as a child, yeah. Well, as a child, that fear isn't automatic. You know what I mean? So that's why I said the fear of the unknown, because if I'm not afraid of what the repercussion is of me letting my guard down, I'll have no problem doing it. And that's where you have people who are considered naive. You know, it's like just allowing everybody to come into their heart. You know what I mean? And inviting them into those personal spaces. So I don't think it's so much the love itself. It's more so like the fear of if I go that far, if I allow this person into that space,
that's why
if I let them into,
I feel like love is scary.
Yeah.
Because when you're a kid, when you come into the world, you know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you get to a place where we say you're of age in some way,
mm-hmm.
you may have seen some different things that make you more unsure.
Apprehensive.
A newborn baby has seen nothing.
Yeah.
But a 22-year-old maybe saw some stuff.
You just go through it. It don't have to be major trauma. Just have a couple different relationships that create a heartbreak.
Yep.
Now you got walls in certain spaces. Like, I don't know if I want to allow you into this space.
Mm-hmm. And then
the downfall of that is it could potentially be a blockade for a good thing for you.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, think about the people who have let their guard down and been crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Even in marriage and end up divorced or whatever.
Yep.
And then to say you can love again.
Yeah.
Is like could be blasphemous to them.
Yeah, it's easier said than done.
It really, in that time, I feel like I found myself saying that.
Because it can be done. It's just easier said.
It's easier. It's easier. You can find love again.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. How much time you put in investing. You think about all that? It's like building a tower out of toothpicks, getting it blown down, and then telling me I can
build it.
You can rebuild that tower.
Like,
do you know how much energy, time, effort, hope, desire, ambition, dreams I put into building this tower of toothpicks, and then something and a whim came and blew it down? Do I really want to spend time rebuilding this all over again?
Yeah.
So
it's one of them things, man.
Yeah.
It's one of them things that you really. There's no safety net. You always say that, and it's 1,000% true.
Mm-hmm.
And for some, it thrives, and for others, there's a struggle. When you're with anyone for a period of time, there's going to be a struggle from time to time. It's just, what do we do with that? Mm-hmm. Am I sticking it out for it?
Yeah.
Is it worth sticking it out? And stuff that people don't talk about, like how often, like how you're changing constantly. Mm-hmm. And the person, you have to adapt to these changes. And it's just one of them things, man. There are so many levels to it. Make me think about them different words you hear. There's levels to this. No, for real. Mm-hmm. For real. Because I think about the type of person that I was when we first got married to who I am now. And I said this like a few days ago, maybe even last week. Like, I can't even fathom doing or saying a lot of the stuff that I did and said in the beginning of our marriage now. I can't even fathom it. I'm like, oh my God, I said that? I did that? Like, that was some stuff right there. And for some, they may not, that our relationship could have been over from some of the stuff we went through. Mm-hmm. Could have been over.
Yeah, ain't no lie.
And done. And they would not have lasted to this. And now we're, 15 years together. And it seems like such a distant memory.
All I hear is take this car.
Like, it's a distant memory now that almost don't feel real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because it's become more commonplace to love and communicate and to understand each other the way we do now than the years behind us where we weren't on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah. And that right there is something like, marriage is really a slow build. And how much you put in is what you get out of it. Mm-hmm. And I love how Tim Ross said, when you stand up to that altar to say I do, you're actually saying I do to the things, to everything you don't know.
Yeah, it's a blank contract.
It's a freaking blank contract. Yeah. And you don't know until you get in it. Yep. The contract was blank. And it's like the ink disappeared or
this
something.
This is why when you made the statement about us being set apart from the world, how we need the biblical guidance. We need the light that God shines to create understanding. Like that principle right there can mentally prepare you just in some way.
Yeah, like I'm about to learn things I don't know.
Versus
you out here being I never.
But this is the thing. This is the thing. The flip side of that, what we see in society, what the world depicts is, I could figure all this out before we're walking across the threshold.
And you can't. You still
can't. That's their fix for that.
Yeah.
Their fix for, so I don't have to deal with all the unknown.
Yeah.
Let me figure all this out before and test the waters and everything else.
For 15,
live
16,
together. I
17.
saw on the videos this couple was together for 26 years. Like, how?
Without getting married. Then you have nothing if anything happens 26 to this person. Years. Anyways, that's a whole.
But all of that, you do all of that, and then you decide to move forward, and it's still a different world.
It's still different. You
still signing a blank contract, even though you feel like you didn't.
I've seen couples that was living together for 18 years get married and get divorced in 2.
Yep.
I remember, and I say it all the time, our wedding night when the day we got married, that night, I remember being. Like, something was different.
It was magical.
I ain't talking about that.
Oh, okay. I do remember that night being magical, but go ahead, carry on with your point.
The night was what was up.
Was you about to say it was cool? Yeah. Was you about to say it was
It was great.
You almost said it was cool.
It was cool. Not in a bad way. It was a great time.
Cool was mediocre. It wasn't average.
No, it wasn't.
You cried.
It wasn't average. No, I didn't cry.
Yes, you did cry.
No, I didn't cry that
You
night.
told me you cried.
No, I cried. What are you talking about? I cried when we got home. I remember when I cried.
You lied
No,
to me.
I did not lie. No, your memory is all crazy.
No.
I did not cry. I remember when I cried.
Yeah, you said you cried.
I remember when I cried. It was when we got home.
Oh, okay.
When we got home, I remember when I had on everything. And I cried because...
But you cried at the hotel before we went off to the honeymoon.
I cried like, yes. But not like,
okay.
No, the honeymoon night was amazing. I remember.
I slept most of the time, so.
You didn't sleep. I mean, you slept, but you slept after.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay.
No, that was a great night, which is something that people need to get into because they're in marriage. This is something we'll have to talk about a different time, but it ain't always like it was amazing. Like there is work to be put in for that. But and that's a lot that I think that church needs to do better with Christian couples. But anyway, I remember that something felt different that I couldn't describe. I think it was like this it was spiritual.
Yeah.
And I couldn't like describe what it was, but I just felt it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what in the world? Like, I had no idea, and I didn't know what it meant, but I remember specifically that something just felt different.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really say what it was, but it was like, if it was one of them things where like, if it was like a superhero movie or something, and they like went to a different realm or something, and it's like, the realm, come on, you seem like you.
No, I'm listening.
No, you still, yeah.
No, I really ain't.
Like,
you can play the tape back. I ain't making no faces.
No, it felt like something had changed, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but I felt it, and it maybe God specifically let me feel that on purpose, like to be like, I can't take you serious. I can't take you. Yeah, it was you.
I ain't even doing that.
I know you don't have to.
No, you just in that space because of the mediocre, cold, great night.
No, it was a great night, and I don't have no reason to lie about it. I'll be 1,000% honest with that.
Just play footsies now.
No, I ain't playing footsies with you. You playing games. You trying to play me and twist up my words. So let me roll my eyes.
No, but I get what you're saying. You felt the shift. You felt that shift.
God probably let me feel something happen in the spirit that I don't.
Absolutely.
It was because, if we could be honest, we didn't wait to do anything, even though we should have, when we really, really tried. But there was a struggle with that. And so it's not like we already had fun before that. It was like fun and then like repentance, but still.
Yeah.
So And we tried and we struggled and we really tried, and all of that. And you tried more than me because I was like, well, we get married anyway at some point. And you was like, no, no, I have to go, But even with that, like it wasn't because of sex.
Yeah.
There was something different that had happened that I can't describe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was a shift.
And I didn't know what was about to happen. Man, I remember after we was coming back from taking our pictures, I was like,
on the wedding day.
Yeah. This is it.
Yeah.
No more first kiss.
Yep.
Like for life. That's what it felt like. I was in the car like, like I didn't realize like what I had done. Like it was over. We took pictures. We was going back to like dance and do whatever, eat and all this stuff. And it just hit me like, ooh, snap, that's it, bro. Clank, clank. And we didn't know what the heck was going to happen.
Yeah.
We didn't know it was going to turn out great like this.
I knew it was a point of no return.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like.
I just told someone, a coworker, yesterday, that, for me, not one time in this almost 15 years of marriage was an out ever a thought.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that because I'm not considering myself an anomaly, but I just feel like that was definitely God's hand and the culture that I was brought up in terms of marriage. That plays a tremendous factor as to why as parents we got to set the tone and create that example. But no matter what we went through, it was never a thought in my mind like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
It was like, you get on my nerves right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk around the block to cool down. I'm gonna sit on this porch, or I'm gonna sit in this living room. You know what I mean? I might have even made up in my mind, I ain't talking to you till tomorrow, or until you come back and say something first. But at any rate, it was never a thought of this ain't no option. And so that's why the culture that we create and what we teach, the principles we teach are important. If you teach like, man, you can work through this.
Yeah.
Versus if they violate you, you violate my trust, I'll never trust you again.
Yeah.
So the difference in principle, like if I teach, man, I gotta love you like Christ loves the church. I gotta die to myself. I gotta figure out a way to be the one to love beyond how I feel. If it's possible in that moment to try.
Yeah.
Versus don't let her violate you. Don't let him break that trust.
Yeah.
And then you creating that culture. It's like once you do it, see, that's how all.
Yeah.
Not even broke it.
And even with that, I still feel like that. Couple things. I always say that you are more mature when it comes to lots of things than a lot of men that I have really seen around me. And so, and the other thing is that I think even that depends on what in the world is going on, because there are some things in marriage that there needs to be an evaluation of if we need to continue.
Absolutely.
And the church don't like to talk about it. Like, even if he's beating you,
no,
they don't say that.
Man.
They don't say that, but I've seen couples encouraged when everybody knew. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. Everybody knew.
Yeah.
And
she getting dragged around.
Man, everybody knew, and nobody ain't saying, and everybody's still trying to push people together, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I don't agree with that. You know what I mean? Amongst other things, and so the biggest thing that I recognize when it comes to marriage and stuff is how it really is a partnership, and it's two people having to choose every day. You have to choose in different ways every day. It might not be the same thing this week or this month or this year to what is making me have to choose, but I can't choose alone. It's not, you can't think as a Christian, well, if I just pray and don't do anything, that it's going to change. And even as not a Christian, you can't be like, well, maybe he'll get it together. Like, we have to decide. And I have a friend who she says this all the time, like, and she would say this all the time. We have a friend, and she's, now she's remarried and been married for 20 years. But she would say it takes two people. Mm-hmm. And until you're really, like, it seems like, duh, right? Until you're in it. Mm-hmm. And then you're tired. Mm-hmm. Or he's tired. Or something's going on that we don't feel like we can get over or get through.
Yeah.
Or this one's working hard and this one ain't doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just something. Maybe he lost his parent, or maybe he lost his job, or she's going through a midlife crisis, or they lost a baby, or whatever circumstance. They financially went bankrupt, something where you just get tired and you don't feel like working on something.
Yeah.
You don't feel like working on this. You want this to be easy. And at times, the easiness will make it, you look up and y'all don't know each other. Because you ain't doing nothing to put work into it.
Yeah.
And so, when I think about that, it really is every day we have to choose in some way. Because, look, Michelle Obama said it, and it's 1,000% true. Some days I'm only able to give 20, and you give the 80.
Yep.
Some days you can only give 10, depending on what's going on with you. Mm-hmm. And us learning the rhythm of our relationship and loving the person through something that they may need. Like me losing my mother was such a major change in my life. Mm-hmm. I felt, and I always would say it, I felt like I had no one. I felt like an orphan. I felt abandoned. I felt so many things. And you can feel like, well, this person can't relate to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just being there, was what I needed at that time. And sometimes not. Sometimes you just taking care of the kids, and then sometimes, even when I didn't want to, I had to get up. Mm-hmm. Our kids were being homeschooled at the time that happened. And there was days I felt so weak that I felt like I couldn't get out of bed. But I had to. Mm-hmm. My kids needed schooled. And there was no one to do it because you were back in office, I think. And that was it. Mm-hmm. And I had a newborn, and I had a 2-year-old, and I had a, 4 and 6 and 8. And who was going to do it? Mm-hmm. Or 5. She turned 5.
Oh, life be lifing.
Yeah.
We talk about that all the time.
And you learn in marriage.
Yeah.
Like figuring out the space you're in. And the time it takes. And and therapy. Yeah. Which is something that I never thought to utilize together until recently. When he said even healthy couples should have a check-in, I was like, I never even thought of that. Mm-hmm. I never even thought of it because our marriage is cool, for real. But I didn't think about it until you're like, oh, well, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for an evaluation of what could be
a temperature
underlined.
Check. Yeah.
Yep.
What are you feeling like? Is everything okay?
Your marriage got a cyst that you ain't pay attention to. It could be malignant. It could be benign.
Yeah.
But it's something that you don't pay attention to till you get some expert eyes on it.
Like,
and it's
like, did you see that?
You ain't see that bump all that time? No, we just functioned with the bump. It rose throughout our relationship and never paid much attention. It became a part of what we are.
Yep. And then you look at other couples thinking,
that was a good example.
That was
good.
Go ahead.
That was good right there. I like that.
Instead you'll look at somebody who don't have a bump and think something's wrong with them.
Yeah.
Why y'all always doing? Why is?
Worry about your own bump.
Remember that little baby on that gift? Worry about yourself.
No,
that's real though. Shoot. Yeah. I still be feeling that way sometimes. Looking at folks like, don't be asking why y'all be matching. Yeah.
People ask her. Where are all these petty people that you be bringing up that I never know about? I don't understand. Nobody talk to me with this guy. I don't know these people.
Well, it's because of this crease in the middle of your forehead. It's always so serious.
Everybody need to get that thing.
You know who you look like?
Ice Cube.
No, that's what you want to look like. No, you look like the dude. I want to call him Bird. Remember on Night Court? Dirt.
The bald head bailiff.
Bird. Wait, what was it? Wait, I can't remember the music.
I don't know the theme song, but
I remember the.
Yes.
You remember him?
Yes. He always looked like a Muppet to me.
He looks like the Muppet with the hair around it. He did.
Mm-hmm. So you said I look like him. This is how we ending this. Love y'all. Good night.
Hey, before you go, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video.